Okay, here we go. Welcome back, everybody, to the Art of Fitness. I am Clutch, and I'm here with Mac.
What's up, guys?
And today we are coming to you live from the internet. So usually we're in person, and today we're streaming. And I got a busy schedule. Mac has a busy schedule, but we want to make sure that we still get to y'all every Wednesday. So, Mac, how's everything been going?
Honestly, everything's been all right. I actually am recovering from a little bit of food poisoning over the weekend. It was a harsh go. I was humbled, brought to my knees, if you may. It was an experience, but everything's all well because I got some House of the Dragon season 3 to keep me
Oh,
occupied. So
oh, I didn't know you were. I didn't know. Oh, some will say right now that Sheep Stiller is a YN. Um, you know what I
yes,
mean?
yes, he is. He's doing whatever he wants to do, bro. He's not following orders, bro. He's in control.
Okay, so I did not know this. So this is the fun part of having this podcast with you, Matt, because I'm learning something new about you every time we get on the mic, and I am Game of Thrones, like I'm super fanned out. So oh man, so we got a lot of stuff to talk about over the season. Sorry if you're not down with Game of Thrones. Just skip for like 15 seconds, hit that like 15-second skip button. And but yo, this the first episode was absolutely crazy. And yeah, dragons. Like can control your dragons.
Bro, I am having it's like fresh on my mind because I just watched it. So I don't know if I have the capability to summarize the wildest parts without spoiling it. Because I really think if you're still listening to it, even after we said to skip forward 15 seconds, and this is your sign to start.
Yeah. Yep. And also, at some point we'll you guys let us know if you're down with Game of Thrones as well, and we'll throw a little tidbit in there. But right now we're here to talk about fitness, so that's what we're here to do. But it's interesting to know that about you. I did not know that, and so we got a lot more in common. But the first thing we want to talk about is on this episode is nutrition, and nutrition is something that I take super super personal because as you guys may know, my story is I came from being 300 pounds overweight and losing a lot of weight over the years, and nutrition played a big big part in me losing weight and just becoming a little bit more healthy. um, so I've literally done everything. I've done every crash diet. I've fasted. I've drunk the teas that make you go to the bathroom. I've used garbage bags and sauna suits and stayed in the sauna and got on a stair stepper with the sweat bag and ate just raw rice and broccoli and chicken, and I've done everything, carnivore, whatever. Um, Mac, I wanna ask you a question. If I was your client coming to you and I had the discipline, I had the work ethic, but my diet was just not there. What is the first thing that you do to bring that client up to speed?
So that's a really good question because I think you already established that the first and most important part is that they have the discipline. So if the discipline wasn't there, then automatically with a lot of my clients, the first thing that I'm looking for is what's going on habitually with their lifestyle, that they're not able to make certain decisions, or like what is in the way to where we really can't hit these goals that we have in terms of just how you're carrying on about your day-to-day life. But like you said, assuming that one does have the discipline, then I would want people to get caught up with protein first and already start to accept kind of like that nutrient dense diet as opposed to just only looking at calories in and calories out. So I would start them with, okay, like, are we eating a ton of vegetables? Are we eating a ton of fruits? Like, some people get way too caught up in the macros, with just your protein, your fats, your carbs, and they're getting them from shit sources. Like, you can't live off of just shakes and bars. Like, at some point, you need a vegetable. Like, you got to eat like an adult at some point. So I think kind of just reorienting people. You can have the discipline and still not be going about things in the right way because your body needs nutrients. Your body doesn't think in terms of macros strictly. It needs different sorts of substances to do its job.
Yeah. I 100% agree with that. And I think it just shows because, one thing that always tripped me up was cheat meals, right? So I would be doing my thing all week and I would be like, all right, let me have this cheat meal. And I mean, I would go all out. Just like I don't even know if it was just a cheat meal, it was a cheat day. I was just eating I was just getting whatever I needed in that day to kind of satisfy or get that that instant gratification. But what I didn't understand was that I might be looking at it as a pizza, but the reality is the calories. I was eating more calories in one day than I needed in like a whole week. And it took a long time to wrap my head around that because I think we just look at it as like the thing that we're eating at that moment, but that one thing might be 1100 calories, and then that's just breakfast. Then lunch is 12, then dinner 13, and then you got to have a snack. That's, that might be 6 or 7. So at the end of that day, you're literally in a deficit and you literally just ate your whole week of hard work. So like what do you do in those moments, just in as a coach, but also yourself? Like, how do you handle those moments when you want to have a cheat meal, when you want to be rewarded for your hard work? How do you handle those moments?
Yeah, so I think it's two things mostly. And the first is that any one of my clients that has any sort of goals related to weight loss, weight gain, muscle mass gain, I have them track. Because tracking does one very important thing, and I feel like it kind of takes the emotional side out of it. Like you're just looking at things objectively, which I feel is really important because this journey is already going to take you on a wild ride emotionally. So to have something to fall back on and say objectively, oh, I did not know that this slice of pizza was in fact 800 cool calories. I just didn't know that. Like I didn't know that this drink, I thought drinking was kind of just like something you could ignore. I didn't know that it was already running me a couple hundred calories. So I think getting people to look at things objectively and they can start to measure their own progress. I think that there's a lot of empowerment there, but then also they can start to hold themselves accountable. But in regards to the occasional cheat, I actually encourage people to like find a mini consistent cheat, like schedule it even. So like on Thursdays, I have a muffin day and I go and I find the sweetest muffin nearby. And I don't care how many. I have never asked. Someone's already told me how many calories it is, and I don't care because I'm accounting for that, and I need it for my mental wellness so that I'm not depriving myself of all the good the world has to offer for the sake of my body composition. But I also know that okay, there's a little bit of balance with that in that I'm gonna try to behave myself throughout the week because I know that on Thursday I'm gonna get a sweet treat. So I think giving yourself like a little bit to look forward to, in whatever way that looks best for someone's like current nutrition plan, whether that's like a little bite of chocolate or like the drink at the end of the week, like whatever that is and however that fits into your goals. I think that that's really the only way to keep yourself from fully going all out when you do get like a cheat meal and then it turns into a cheat day and then now you've fallen off the horse and you're stuck for 2 weeks until you can get the motivation back.
Yeah, and I think too, just to piggyback on that, finding a cheat meal that isn't so drastic that it's taking you out of there because there are so many different ways. I remember when I first started eating healthy, finding something that was healthy enough to eat that tastes good was like a real problem, like a real problem. like like finding like I mean I just remember the first protein bars that I've had and I was like this is the worst thing I've ever had. And but recently I just got like the Ninja Creamy bar, the knockoff version of the Ninja Creamy, and I've learned how to make like protein ice cream. And it's something that I as someone who likes to crack codes, as someone who likes to problem solve, I spent the first month that I had it just trying to find the right recipe that I can have. So now when I have ice cream, I know what's in it. I know exactly I don't know the calories because I'm not counting the calories because I know what I'm putting in it isn't bad for me at the end of the day. So um, for you, what's a healthy balance cheat meal that you would think that can help people get to that like healthy um trade off?
Yeah, so I honestly had the same problem back when, like, I was never really in a space where I was trying to lose weight, but diabetes, high cholesterol, like high blood pressure, that all runs in my family, like runs amok. So I knew that, and I have a sweet tooth. So I'm like, okay, I got to start figuring out ways right now how I can kind of like satisfy my sweet tooth without me actually just ingesting every sugary thing I see. Like, cuz I really would. I wouldn't mind. I would enjoy it. But I think something that's helped me a lot is like utilizing Greek yogurt,
Ooh,
which I know is heinous for many. But I think when you really jazz it up, so like lately I've been doing like some of the plain Greek yogurt, and then you put some frozen raspberries in there,
okay.
and then you mash it up a little bit, and you get like this raspberry sorbet. Stay with me. And then with the raspberry sorbet, you take just like a tablespoon of honey, like nothing crazy. Just add just a little bit of sweetness on the top. And you get something that literally satisfies my sweet tooth every single night. Like I have it's like my nightly snack, and then it's also insanely high in protein as well. And the Greek yogurt's pretty good to have before bed. So I think, but it honestly takes a lot of time and research. Like I think that's something that's understated is how much like actual intentional effort goes into finding things that can like replicate that for you as a person like you, and making protein ice cream like that doesn't come easy.
No. I I think that the hardest part of the like finding what you like is finding what you like. You know what I mean? It's like there's nights where I made like that protein ice cream and I like was spite eating it because one, I just didn't want to waste the ingredients. But then two, it's like, man, I know I can make this taste better. So I just for me, heavy whipping cream and a little bit of salt, some whole milk and a good protein powder goes a long way. I mean, that's usually what I do, and but I've spent a lot of time finding the right protein powder because all protein powders don't blend the same. So that's one thing that it helped me is just finding what I actually like and what I don't. Like you said, I don't mind eating that every day. Like if I was like, this is my one cheat meal, I can eat that daily and I can mix it up. If I want to get crazy with it, I'll throw some peanut butter in it or something, um, throw some blueberries or whatever it may be that I'm craving that day. But finding a good cheat meal that can help you get through, I think that's a major key, honestly.
So I have a question for you too as to how your approach to cheat day has shifted. I know you mentioned earlier on how it was something that would kind of engulf the entire day. How did you go about kind of changing your approach to allowing yourself that little bit of pleasure like on your journey?
To be honest with you, it just the results. The results is what changed it for me because I've realized that um instant gratification is usually what gets you in trouble. Um, I want the things now, and it almost like that allowance that you give yourself is like it's almost like go off the rails. And I think part of it is knowing yourself too. I know that I have an addictive personality. I know that like I just can't run, most days if I got the time, I just can't run 5 miles. I gotta run 10. If I'm, if I'm doing something, I'm doing it. I'm not just like one toe in it. And it's like that with my eating habits. If I'm eating pizza, I'm going to eat pizza that day. Like I'm going to eat all the pizza and there's going to be none for nobody else. So knowing that about myself is like what's behind it. Because if I'm going to have a cheat meal, and this is just for me, this is not for most people don't think this way, but if I'm gonna eat pizza all day, I'm gonna ride my bike 50 miles, or I'm gonna put myself in a position that what I'm going to eat isn't such a dress doesn't have such a drastic effect on me because I've actually expended that energy to fuel my body. So I think that's how it changed. But to be honest with you, I just don't like how I feel when when I'm not eating healthy. And I think once you know what health feels like, you know what not being healthy feels like. So, 2 days of eating bad for me, I can actually feel it the way that I wake up, the way that I move throughout the day, my energy levels. And once you're operating at a point to where like you're living a healthy lifestyle, eating negative doesn't it's not in your plans because you don't want to feel bad.
Yeah, that's that's actually I had like a little bit of an experience with that on Friday because like someone had bought some McDonald's and like they had extra hash browns and an extra sandwich, and I said a McDonald's breakfast, like please, why would I not like say yes to that? And I had a hash brown, bro. I was almost out of commission for like half a day. I said it's not even worth it anymore. Like it's just it's not even So I would definitely agree that like it does take time though to get to that level to where the value of maintaining that lifestyle kind of outweighs like those like short term pleasures for sure.
And most people don't know what it feels like to live in a healthy mode. And I think too part of it is I'm very blessed with my health and and it's always funny because I don't and when I hear people talking, you know how like people have that like the old conversation. It's like, yeah, when I wake up, my knees click, and you know what I'm saying. Like you're just like, oh, I can't see for the first hour of the day and stuff like that. And I'm always in the background like itching to be like, I don't feel none of that, and I never want to come off as like being like the a hole in the room, but I also take those moments to show gratification because I just like that's something that I don't feel. I'm one of those people where I never had a cavity. I'm one of those people where I don't have. I'm a runner, and I never experienced shin splints. Like I think the worst running injury I've ever had was my IT band was sore, or I had like plantar fasciitis from wearing the wrong shoes. Just like one day, but I'm very blessed, and I'm aware that I'm blessed with my health. So when I realize that I'm going down a bad path, I course correct very quickly because I don't ever want to experience those things. At least not now. I mean, father time is coming for all of us, but um, I like to be that like a hole in the back of the room, like I don't know nothing about that.
Yeah, no, that's what I like. Is like I sympathize with y'all, and um, I hope things get better soon. But
Yeah.
I like I'm not really relating to that at the moment.
That's how I'll be living, and I had that conversation today. Someone was sitting there like, "Oh man, I can't see, and my eyes this and that," and I was just like, "Man, like I'm itching to just be like, man, I don't know nothing. I don't know what that feels like."
Bro, it should also be said if you're listening to this and you also can't see for the first hour in the morning, that has nothing to do with fitness, bro. You've gotta go. You've gotta go. You've gotta go check in on that. You gotta lock in. You've gotta lock in. There's no amount of running that's gonna work on that. That's insane.
Oh my god, man, it's funny because like sometimes I be in conversations with people and I'm like, "What is happening, man? What's going?"
It just checked out.
Yeah.
It just checked out. Yeah.
Oh man. So like that, just I guess that leads us into our next conversation is just like injury prevention and like recovery. And I also think that too injury prevention and nutrition tie in together. I just know it. I'm not the expert you are on just these type of matters, but I just know that like what you put in your body um fuels your body and keeps you healthy. And that was a big lesson that I had to learn by doing endurance sports is like most people say I can't run. They're like, I can't run. I get to 2 miles and I can't run. And I'm like, you might be right, but like what are you doing? Like, or you're like people, most people don't realize like you're when you're running or when you're like expending so much energy, your glycogen levels are depleting. And one thing you need to do is refuel yourself. So every 30 minutes, I usually take 100 grams of carbs in. And with those carbs, there's salt and there's also sugar in the gels that I take. And it's replenishing my body as I go. My first experience with this was eating a banana while I was running. And I remember just thinking like on my second win, I was like, oh my God, like I feel so good. And I think that also on the flip side of that is recovering after I ran. I used to run 3 miles and I felt terrible the next day. And now I'm running 13 miles and I'm just going to, after coaching soccer practice and then going to go to work afterwards. And it's because I'm fueling my body properly throughout the workout and then before and after. So, Matt, what's some tips that you can give to people about fueling themselves and how proper nutrition can actually help you with injury prevention.
Yeah, no, I think first of all, you're absolutely right that nutrition and recovery and injury prevention are all tied in together. I think where I see a lot of people making mistakes, especially runners, is they get very in the weeds with different exercises that are like, okay, bulletproof your knees,
Mhm.
bulletproof your Achilles, bulletproof your, and like they go down that kind of like Instagram rabbit hole of like what exercise my knee hurts, what exercises are going to take that pain away. That's not how it works at all because your body's a whole system, right? And your knee, your patella tendon isn't saying, oh, this person did 10 step ups today, let me lock in and stop hurting. But it does respond to, oh, okay, this person's eating enough protein for me to actually layer and build a little bit of resilience so that this person can get back to what they're doing and do it well. So I think more people need to kind of shift around a holistic approach to their recovery and injury prevention, being sleep, eating well, and giving your body what it needs, and then just getting strong enough to where you can start to handle the demands of what you're trying to do. I think anytime you're asking your body to do something that you have not prepared it to do, you're going to run into issues. Because even people that have prepared for doing what they're asking their body to do run into issues. That's just active people have active problems. No one's exempt from injury, unfortunately. Like things happen, like if you're moving your body around, but you'd rather it be that than you're not moving and you're not living the way you want and injury comes for you too. So it's kind of like which path do you want?
Yeah, and also like that those overuse injuries, you can't you can't fight through them. You know, I think most people they they want to fight through them and then they're frustrated with themselves. What? Because they're like, I just gotta run, and it's like find something to do. Find something to do different. You know, if you're, one of the biggest things that I do, and I found this through me just experience a little bit of burnout, is I'll hop on a stair stepper. If I'm not feeling that being on the pounding the pavement on the tread or on outside or on a treadmill, I'll hop on the stair stepper. I'll get on a spin bike. Cross training. All of those things to kind of get you out of that like motion. Like I said, for me, it was my IT band. For some reason, it just I cannot get that together. And it was an overuse injury. I just can't. I mean, I was just running, like that was all I was doing, and then I got introduced to kettlebell workouts, and then I got introduced to cycling, and I think those are the things that kind of helped me because I was still able to work out and expend, burn my calories, but I was still able to stay fit at the same time because most people don't realize like when you're running, that's you're burning a lot of calories and you all of the progress that you see is gone. But stop running for a week and you're going to see an immediate change, especially if your diet is tailored to your running.
Oh, no, I definitely agree. And like, I think that um, that goes to, I think, one of the themes that we consistently hit on is being like adaptable and knowing when to pivot. And it's like, okay, things are going to happen. It's kind of just a part of the journey, but you can still continue to move forward. Like you said, like, okay, if running's out of the cards, I can hop on the stair stepper and still keep up my conditioning, still keep up my muscular endurance. and be fine until I'm ready to rock again, and like I can handle things responsibly in the meantime. And I think that it's very difficult. I do think for the endurance athletes in particular, it is like pulling teeth to try to get you guys to just stop,
Hmm.
to just relax a bit until we can let things calm down, and then we'll re-enter at like an appropriate pace or time. But I'm like, I wish I can you help me understand better, like what keeps you guys like ferociously needing to be putting foot to pavement, like saying no to any other thing.
Um, I will speak because this is something that I'm kind of like last week I was dealing with this. So I'll give you a real life example. Um, you're supposed to go about 10% up every week in your mileage. Sometimes higher. It depends on what your training plan is and who your coach is, and how you're going about that. So last week, and I'm not going to get the accurate percentages, but I'm just saying like that's the rule of thumb. It's just like you're going up a little bit every week. So last week the week before last week I was at 25, and then the week after that I was supposed to be at about 32 miles per week. I only did 17. Part of it was because my wicked work schedule, just being, just a dad and, moving and, whatever. Life was just throwing all kind of fastballs my way. And now, although this isn't specific towards my injury, but that's just how I'm thinking. I'm like, how am I going to meet this goal of, you know, sub 4 hour marathon if I'm missing my long runs? And I think that's what is usually happening in a runner's mind, is because if you plug in your race schedule and it says that you're supposed to run 700 miles in this training block, in this 18-week training block, and you miss 17 of them, that's a big chunk of mileage, and you're injured. So maybe 2 weeks of training, of being out of training, is a hundred plus miles to some people. And if the sweet science is that you're going to run 700 miles to run 26 miles at a x amount of pace to get your goal, in your mind you're losing that goal. So then you start to play this game of, I'm going to make up for it next week. So now Monday comes and it's really supposed to be a rest day, but you remember in the back of your head, I got to make up 17 miles somewhere. I gotta at least, I'm gonna tack on 2 miles to Tuesday's run when I'm only supposed to do X mile. I'm only supposed to do six, and now you're putting this load on your body that really isn't supposed to be there. It was supposed to be a progressive load, but now you're just compounding all of your training on top of each other just to make up. So here's the very interesting part of it, is you're supposed to have a deload week in between these. So usually 3 weeks or 2 weeks in, you have a deload week. So if you make it up to 50 miles, then you're supposed to come back to 30, and then you're supposed to start building back up. If you can't have a deload week because you're making up for all of the miles that you missed during the time that you were injured, that's the problem. And now at the end of your training block, you're really not even able to recover properly because you're still trying to make up mileage, because you're in the back of your mind, you're like, I have to hit 700 miles to make sure that I have enough miles under my legs to carry me over that, like, that wall that I'm gonna hit at mile 18. So it's a real crazy science. It makes sense to a runner, but I guess maybe explaining it made a little bit more sense, because as I'm like that's the first time I really can say that I've explained it in detail, and I was like, oh yeah, that is crazy. But that's the best I got.
And that actually helped a ton, because I feel like I work with a lot of team sport athletes, and it's just not the same dynamic. Like you look at from that perspective, you're missing games or you're missing practices or tournaments, but it's not like you're, and really the worst that happens is you come back deconditioned, or you come back to someone like we awakened their talents and took your spot. Like those are the two worst cases. But in either case, it doesn't really. They're not. They might be itching to get back to their sport just out of like love for it. That doesn't feel natural without it. But the runners, like, and I understand now that you explained it. But the running itch to return was, I'm just like, oh, these people are kind of cracked out. Like they're nuts. But I understand now. There's a lot that goes into the planning of it all. So that makes sense.
And also too, to add on to that, getting out of running shape is the worst thing you can do. Like, it's like running sucks. Don't get me wrong. Like, there's never a time where I'm like enjoy it. Like, people might not think that as much as I run, but there's really never a time where I'm like, this is the greatest thing ever. Like, I mean, it's like a runner's high, but like most of the times, like if you've been running for a long time, you're just like, I gotta get these miles done. Like, I love running on new roads. I love the things. I love medals and stuff like that. But the majority of the time, I'm doing it for my mental health, and also just, I mean, I'm just, this is what I do as a runner. But getting out of running shape, not running for 2 weeks, getting back into it, you're like, do I even know how to use my legs? Like, how, like this run is like the worst run ever. Like, it literally feels like you're running in like glue, like with your first time back.
Ugh. Yeah, yeah. I can see that. I think that definitely offers up a much better understanding than what I was working with. Because I'm just like, what is the pushback? What is the pushback? But now I understand a little bit more.
And I mean, you have people like, that you have people with running people who have like personal um challenges to themselves as well. Like, I know a guy who literally ran 3 miles every day for a year, at least 3 miles. And he in that he ran a couple marathons, and all of that stuff. But I mean, there's people, running is really something that, mentally, after you're done, it's just like you feel, I don't know. So don't make me get on my soapbox about running, but I had a conversation with a guy. I'm not gonna say a guy. He has become my friend, and we've been doing track workouts for the last couple of weeks. His name is Zach, and we just the other day we was on the track and we were just talking about life. We were just talking about how, like, you know running can mimic life at times, and for me, life is coming no matter what, right? Like, life is going to stress you out. Life is going to put you in those compromising positions where you got to make a decision in a split moment, and it's going to add that stress. And I think running is one of the only times where you can put yourself in instant adversity and make a decision, because you can stop at any time. You don't have to do it. Like, you can just, like, you could be in the middle of a workout and be like, I'm going home. But that decision to keep pushing when you're doing something that is voluntary, because there's going to be a come a time when you're put in that same stressor, and life is getting at you, and you got to make a split decision. And if you don't make a decision, or the right decision, it can affect your life for the rest of your life. So I think running puts puts things in perspective for you, because it's voluntary, but you will feel that same feeling, that same dreadful feeling that I feel at mile 19, when I'm depleted, and I can just get on the sidewalk and just walk. Like, no one's telling me, like, I don't have to do this. That feeling of really asking yourself who you are in that moment. That's gonna be, when death comes knocking at a family member's door, when life comes, when the bills gotta be paid, or when cars broke down on the side of the road and you gotta get to work. Like, those feelings of dread, when you practice for a while running, it can make those moments a lot easier. And it maybe not easier, but it's going to make it a lot more manageable, because you know what it feels like to be in that moment. And guess what? You did it on yourself. So when those moments come, it makes it a lot easier for you to make that split decision, if that makes any sense.
That does make sense, and that's something that I believe as well, that you can cultivate resilience in yourself. and expose yourself to levels of discomfort so that when discomfort does come, your body's like your mind also is like better equipped for it.
Yeah.
And I do think that's a huge thing. I can definitely see that being applied to running because I personally hate it. Like that's about as uncomfortable as I could get, you know, truthfully. But yeah, no, I do think that there's something very special to it being voluntary as well. Is like there's a lot of like empowerment with that. It's like you can just like the simple sentence of like you can do hard things, like you can make it through a hard thing,
Yeah.
and like live through it and like live to tell the tale. But I do have an interesting question for you, kind of looping that in with injuries and running and stuff like that. I do believe that everyone should have an outlet that can instill some grit, some resilience. I think that running can be an excellent tool for that. I know a lot of therapists and a lot of like orthopedics and stuff like that, orthopedic doctors that would say though that not everybody's meant to run. What do you think about that?
I think that's very true. You know, you might have an ailment that just prevents you from moving in that forward motion, but you know, for anybody who has ever seen a marathon, you know that like the first people who cross that starting line are people, the wheelchair racers. Um, so you know, having an ailment does not prevent you from being active. They have, you know, Special Olympics. There's people every day that's doing things that's uncommon and that are out of the box. Just because you have a pain in your arm, or you know, maybe you have a pain in your leg, or maybe you're not built for running, that doesn't excuse you from trying to be active, because we see it all the time. We see these outliers on ESPN, or you know, someone who were born, you know, without legs, or born without arms, or you know, whatever it may be. They're the example of why you shouldn't be doing what you're doing is there. But there's also people who are perfect examples of showing you like there are people who are outliers and they're still doing those things. So I think it comes the simplest answer to this question is you got to find something that you love. Running wasn't my first love. I don't love running as much as I love cycling. Like the Tour de France is coming, and July. Don't talk to me for like my whole family. D&D. Don't. Mm-mm. You know what's up? Like I'm watching Tour de France. I'm gonna watch these dudes cycle for 21 days in the Alps of France. Like that's what I'm gonna watch. But running has become my outlet, and I like CrossFit and all of like I love fitness period. But I guess the short answer to your question is you got to find something that you love to do, because if not, then you're going to find a lot of excuses that's going to keep you from finding that. You know, like I said, I found running on a whim. Like I just woke up one day and I was just like, I never run 3 miles. I didn't. No, you know what? My first mile, I woke up and I remember getting on a treadmill, and for some reason there was like this story of like the 10-minute mile. It was like, can you run the 10? And I remember in high school that was a big thing. Like, can you run a 10-minute mile? And I remember I got on there and I remember thinking to myself, if my family needed me in 10 minutes and they were a mile away, can I run this mile in 10 minutes? And I did it. And then I was like, well, what else can I do? Can I do more? And I can I do more? And like putting that primal like um encouragement to see if my family's on the other side of the mile, it encouraged me to go farther. So I think just finding what you love to do, finding a purpose behind what you love to do, and truthfully, you're never going to know if you like it or not if you don't try it.
100%. Yeah, no, I think that's an excellent point. I think basically, um, there was one person that I saw in a clinic who was like really in love with running, and she had just gotten into it maybe like 4 or 5 months ago, and it's something that had really helped her with like postpartum depression. And she like her husband was very supportive of her getting out like in the evenings and doing her little runs and everything, but she had run into plantar fasciitis, she had run into patellar tendonitis, IT band syndrome, like kind of just like one after the other, but as a physical therapist, I know that like these things are pretty just for a lot of people are typical when you just start like a high impact kind of exercise and you really go at it. Like it's not, it's not something that should exclude you from the activity automatically. But she came into the PT session and was like, yeah, like basically my orthopedic doctor said that I'm just not built to run. And I said, hmm, because that's not fair. Like excluding cases of other able individuals that have unique circumstances, unique equipment that can help them get out there and experience a run. Like to tell someone because they've had several injuries that they just must not be built for it, I think is incredibly irresponsible because mostly because you're not telling that person where the injuries are really stemming from. You
Right.
probably did just too much than what you were ready for, and that's fine, but you need to dial it back and we need to build your body up appropriately, like strength training, making sure your joints are resilient, making sure you have the movement patterns that aren't stupid so that you're not putting mileage on a body that is not messing with the way that you're moving right now, making sure you equip with the right shoes like you mentioned before.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot other that goes into it. So I think I was very interested in hearing your opinion when I heard that, because I was just like, I don't know. And that it was very disappointing for me to hear, especially because that was actually not the first time that I had heard that from someone who was saying like, oh, running is just not for me, and not in a like my way. I'm just like, I don't want to do it. Like you couldn't. I'm running from something if you see me running, basically. But for other people, where it's like, you do like it, you are trying to get into it for yourself, and like your body is just not really banging with it at the moment. It is very sad to see people get discouraged right off the bat because there's a lot that you can do to make it work for you. Like it might not be the mileage that you wanted, or it might not look exactly how you wanted, at least for now. But I do think it's probably one of the most accessible things people can do for themselves. Like if you have a safe outdoor space or anything, a treadmill, any like if you have a path, like this is something that you can do, and I do respect that about running for sure.
And one thing that helps me out in understanding running or just anything is like, it kind of goes back to what you said about nutrition. It's like, we as humans, we're like, okay, I know, like if I eat this banana, like I know that it's fuel, but like your body is just thinking like, okay, I got more sugar. I got more, carbs or something like that. And I think we forget what actually running is doing. Like, it's not like there's a benefit that like your body is like, oh, I'm running. Like the reason why your body, like you're running, your heart rate is high is because your body thinks you're running from something. Like, it's not like, your body's like, oh, we're going on a jog. Like your body's like, okay, my heart rate's spiking up because I'm running from, whatever our ancestors ran from in the wilderness when they were, becoming a civilization. So I think that going back to like the fact that we're just humans at the end of the day, and yes, you might have knee pain when you're running, but like they sell knee braces, and they also like there's also things called like form and pace. Maybe you're running too fast for your actual body structure, but that doesn't mean that you can't run. Also go for a walk. Walking, especially if you're trying to lose weight, being in zone 2 is probably like the best way to like burn fat. Like so, there's ways that you can um, use running as a tool, but you don't have to run a 6 minute mile to say you're a runner. There's people who run a 15-minute mile. There's people who run a 16-minute mile, 18 of that. You don't, to be a runner, that doesn't mean that you have to run the fastest that you've ever ran before. It just means being active and getting out there. And also, if you've tried all of those things and you're still in pain, go buy a bike. Go buy a, go do something different. Go get a canoe. Go, there's ways that you can get active. And I think that the reality is a lot of people love running because there's a lot of people doing it, but there's a lot of people doing other things. There's probably a canoe club right now. There's probably like a boogie board club that's still you're burning calories. So it's like finding the right community, doing the things that you love to do, and don't let nobody tell you that you don't have the body for that, because that's a very lazy thing to do, especially when, you know, as an adult, we have free will. Go try it. Like, you'll never know if you don't go try.
100%. Like, just close your ears and go do
It's
what you
just,
want to
yeah.
do.
Right.
Go
Right.
on about your go on about your day, bro. It's like when Tyler the Creator was like, why is cyberbullying a thing? Like, just close your eyes, bro.
Yo, shut your phone off. Like, you know, I think that's one thing that we do, and I know a common theme that me and you talk about is like how social media affects fitness, and you know, we forget that you could just shut your phone off. Like, just you can go for it. Like, you know, Mac, you know, it's funny. So I've been doing this thing, and I know I said it before, but I've been doing this thing where I'll shut the world out. Like, my family will go to sleep, and I'm up because I'm an insomniac. If I get to be up at 5 o'clock in the morning, I'm probably still up at 2 watching TV. But what I've been doing lately to zone the world out is I'll throw my phone on the charger and put it in the next room, and I've been watching like the Bulls finals on YouTube, like full games. And you know, lately I've been like, man, at one, it makes me feel good because it's like, even though I wasn't living in that time, I mean, I was, you know, I was born in '90, so I was 7 when Jordan was in the finals, but I didn't know that much about basketball. But it's so crazy to watch those games and no one has a phone out, to watch these commentators talk about life, and it's just, you know, for me it just feels simple, but it's one of those things where you realize that, like, we live in a very hyper focused world that's like, I shouldn't be able to pick up my phone and see what Mac is doing today. Like, you know, unless you want to, unless Mac is like, I'm gonna show you what I worked out today and show you what I ate, cool. But like, I shouldn't be that connected to each person, the way that we are. Now, that's the world that we live in, but you know, I just think it's interesting to watch those old school games, and just be like, man, there was a time when life was very simple, and although, you know, your favorite athlete was on TV, you that's all you knew. You just knew Michael Jordan was the best, and he, you know, he was in the finals, but then, all right, your life starts right as soon as the game shuts off. Your life starts, and now I feel like, you know, for example, as soon as the finals are over, people are like on Twitter arguing about a call that happened for the next 3 days until the next game. You know what I mean? So I think one thing about me is that I'm finding those moments to kind of pull back on everything and kind of ground myself back to square one before I start the next day, or move on to the next task.
Yeah, no, that's real, honestly. Like, I feel like just some intentional time to unplug. It's kind of ironic too, because like even like before bed, I read one of my books, but like my book even is on my phone.
Mm,
And I'm just like, sometimes I find myself yearning for just like the paper, like the
yeah,
pages. Like, I feel like pretty soon actually, like I have like this feeling that we're gonna come full circle back around to those things. You know what I'm saying? Like, things were simple like that. Those were like, in terms of like the Bulls and everything else you were talking about, like those were like pre-edit days, bro.
yeah,
Like, you just had to have been raw. Like,
hmm,
there were no edits that made you hype. Like, you were really just him.
yeah.
Simply simply So I don't know, I think I think we have our conversations about social media, and that's one of the bones that I have to pick with it as well. Is like, I don't think that we are meant to be um, constantly consuming other people's lives, thoughts, opinions, especially when at the same time social media tends to like dull our own.
Hmm.
Like, that's a very interesting. I think it's a very interesting thing that happens. I haven't fully thought it through. That was just something that I was thinking, like, man, like, as invested as I am in someone else's life on social media, it's like all that time is wasted when I could be spending that time like towards my own goals, or like towards my own passions or interests. It, like, I don't know, it's kind of like a weird little thing.
Well, I think too. it's a game that we're playing because like, just think about the two things we talked about today. We talked about nutrition and we talked about injury prevention. And I can give you two examples of when that, social media like played a trick on me that I needed to do more or, whatever. Like I'm one of my favorite things to do on Instagram when I watch fight videos. It's great. But I shouldn't don't it's just a guilty pleasure. But I watch food reviews. I watch these people do these like mukbang videos of them eating the craziest things that you can find and or crumble cookie review, which is like I don't even like sweets. But for some reason watching somebody else do it just triggers like that and then all of a sudden I'm like, man, there is that crumble cookie like right on the way to work. And tomorrow I'm gonna go try it myself. That's one thing that's like if you're on a specific goal and you're training for something, that's like one of those things that can trigger you into being like, okay, now I can't stay on my goals because all I'm doing is watching other people. I'm hungry because I'm eating rice and chicken all day, and then this dude is eating like a cookie that's 2,400 calories, and I want it tomorrow, so I'm gonna go get it. And then also too, being in a point where you're injured and you're on the couch and you're just chilling, you're recovering, and you done foam rolled, and you got your feet up, and you're letting the blood flow all the way to your toes and all, and to your heart, and however that works. And then your boy posts, and he's like, "I just did a 10-mile run, and it was glorious." And then in your head, you're like, "Oh, I think I gotta go do something. I think I gotta just go for a run." And now which could have been a 2-day injury turns out to be a month-long injury because you didn't allow your body to, recover fully or the inflammation to heal your injury or whatever. So it's like those are the instances where it's like just picking up your phone or putting your phone down can save you from a lot of those moments.
100%. That's some good actionable advice. Put the phone down.
Put the phone down. Like that's it. And it's hard to do. It's hard to do. But I think ultimately if we do it, it can put us in a good position. And it just helps us disconnect. It helps me disconnect, especially, just being a father, and being present. One thing I love is like my son, he plays Minecraft and he's building all the time and he's using, one thing about him, he uses social media for positivity. Like he fuels his own interests and he's not really falling down like the negative social media type of deal. I don't allow him on social media, but he does have an iPad. But just using it as intentional because if you got your phone, if you got a book on there, that's fine. Why not read a book, there? But it's better than scrolling TikTok for 10 hours just laughing at nonsense. So I think that's the biggest advice that I have for people. What is some to kind of finish this episode up, Mac, like what is some real life advice you can give to people that, at the end of the day, whether it's fitness, whether it's social media, um, what kind of how can people be more intentional about having a cheat meal, having a cheat social media binge? How can people be more successful into diving into those short-term pleasures?
Yeah, no, I think it's trial and error with yourself. So it's like one part of having patience to go through that process and see what works for me, what doesn't work for me. And the other part, then I feel like it just boils down to you got to try. You're not going to know what works for you or what your balance is, what your sweet spot is for your treat meals and scheduling out your day. I know a lot of people struggle with just having some sort of structure to begin with. What have you tried? Like what have you tried to lay out for yourself yet? Like some people don't respond best to this, some people respond pretty well to that, or like they like this narrative versus that narrative, but you have to try. Like it's out there for you. Some people admittedly it's going to be a little easier to come to than others, right? Like but you at the end of the day, like I feel like you owe it to yourself to put the effort in to try to see what works best for you so that you can get the best out of whatever you're looking for. Whether that's like a little bit more structure in life, like some more balance, so you're not on pure brain rot for the full 10 hours, maybe just a humble two, you know what I'm saying? Or you're just trying to squeeze in some simple pleasures with the meal so that you don't feel like you're in complete hell when you're just trying to do better for yourself and eat better. Like, I think it just comes down to you need to try, and it's no one's going to be able to give you the straight answer. It's going to come down to a little bit of trial and error, but you've got to put yourself out there and be willing to fail at some points, know what doesn't work, and get back on the horse and try the next thing.
And I 100% agree with that, Mac. The biggest thing that I can give advice that I can give people is don't be afraid to hit that plateau. Don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid to try something that don't work. Or try something, and if it doesn't work, get discouraged. The worst thing you can do is fail at something and then dive back down into your bad habits. Um, just because it's not working, that doesn't mean that something else wouldn't work. So that's my biggest advice to you guys. Thank you again for joining us on this episode. Once again, I know this looks a little bit different, but we just want to continue on having consistency, showing up on Wednesdays, dropping these episodes, and thank you for rocking with us. This has been a fun journey, and we have no plans on stopping. So, thank you guys. I am Clutch, and this is Mac. See you guys next time. Peace. Peace.